now we're going to start our program. First thing that we're going to do is we will have our LD18 Senate and House candidates. These are our candidates. For those of you who were at the meet and greet a couple of weeks ago, Linda Ekstrom took this picture of everyone. We are going to introduce our first speaker, Charlie Verdin. He is a Democratic candidate for Arizona House of Representatives, and this is his contact information. Charlie, speak for as long as you want, and if we have extra time within that 5 minutes and somebody has a question, we will ask you the question. Okay?
Sure. No worries. I'm pretty known for being brief anyway. Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Verdin, and I'm running for the State House in LD18. Thank you all for coming. I'm one of the owners of an online retailer called Fangamer based here in Tucson. I helped found the company back in 2007, and we have grown the company from a tiny operation selling shirts online out of an apartment bedroom to a successful multinational company with about 100 employees, branches in Japan and Europe, as well as ownership over our own shirt printing company here in Tucson, as well as a vinyl record manufacturer up in Portland. At some point, the company became financially stable enough that some of us felt comfortable having kids, which is a rare state among millennials like myself. I personally am the father of two small children, a 3-year-old and an 11-month-old who was just featured in my arms a few seconds ago. And hey, buddy, my 3-year-old is also trying to pitch in. Yeah. These kids will be in public schools in just a few years, so education funding is a big concern for me. I'm also a member of the Pontiac Indian tribe in South Louisiana. My tribe's ancestral land has largely disappeared due to erosion over the past few decades due to corporate negligence, poor water management, and climate change. So I'm very, very committed to making sure my new home here in the desert remains inhabitable for the foreseeable future. Our biggest challenge is our dwindling water supply, a problem we absolutely need to address as soon as possible. Again, my name is Charlie Verdin, and I appreciate you giving me some time today. And I really look forward to getting to know you all.
Hi, Nathan. How much time do we have for questions?
About 3 minutes.
Okay. So the first question I have, you did talk about water sustainability. Could you go into a little bit more depth in that?
Certainly. It's a complicated problem that we're going to have to address from multiple different angles in order to actually address it, because it's coming up fast and we need to take it very seriously. There's generating more water, which I know that the Republicans are very interested in because it means they don't have to change their own lifestyles. They can just throw money at a problem and hope that it fixes itself. But it's very expensive to generate more water through desalination and other methods like that. So we can invest in that, but we need to do more, and especially through conservation. There are many methods we can do to incentivize individuals and homes to use water more efficiently and allow more of it to get into the ground through permeable surfaces and stuff like that. But we really need to start addressing our agriculture uses, especially. We need to incentivize farmers to invest in less water-intensive crops and technologies that make irrigation more efficient. So that's really what we need to be focusing on.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. How will you combat the assaults on voting and women's rights?
Well, that's an uphill battle with our current legislative makeup. But we really have to make it personal as much as possible. We need to exhibit the facts, the ways that these, or at least especially as far as women's rights, affect the people that we know. As far as our voting rights, we also got to make it personal to the people who that is affecting, because that's voting rights is like at the core of what this country is about. And we have to make certain that people understand that this is how democracy works. And I mean, of course, we have to do things like make it as easy as possible for people to register and vote. Same day registration is a great start of that. Making voting locations as accessible as possible, as well as, sorry, I'm losing my voice. I just had a cold a few days ago and I'm recovering from that. As well as expanding our really protecting our early voter list as much as possible, because I think that really contributes to a high voter turnout because it makes it so easy for people.
Nathan, we would like for you to speak next. Again, he's a candidate for Arizona House of Representatives. NathanDavisAZ.com is his contact information.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. And thanks for letting me skip in line. As most of you know, my wife and I are hosting a foreign exchange student this year, and he goes back home to Paris on Monday, and he's asked to do as many sunset hikes as possible. So I want to bring him up here that I could. So thank you, everybody. Again, my name is Nathan Davis. I'm was born and raised here in Tucson. I currently run a small family business in the foothills. I taught middle school social studies before that. And fundamentally, I'm running because I love this community, I love this state, and I want to continue, I want to remain here. And to do that, we have to ensure that we are tackling climate change head on, that we are fixing our public schools, and that we are protecting healthcare rights, and including the right to legal abortion care and to reproductive rights. Like many here, the recent trend of the Republican Party is very discouraging and very concerning for my family. It's as all of you will be able to empathize with. My wife and I are planning to have kids and start a family soon. And one of the things that scares us to death is, what if the Republicans get their way? What if, we are in, a terrible situation that we have to go to the hospital because of miscarriage, and we get questioned by the police who think that it was a self-induced, it was an induced abortion. And right now that can seem kind of dystopian. 5 years ago, even a couple of years ago, that would have seemed very dystopian, but we are seeing other states moving in that direction, and we will see this state move in that direction if we don't stop it now. That's why I carry the reproductive freedom constitutional amendment with me when I knock on doors. That's why we have to make sure that we are electing Democrats who will stand up for our rights. I'm going to go ahead and end it there, so that way, hopefully I can get a couple questions if there are any.
Hi, yes, there are questions. Nathan, how long do we have?
About 2.5 minutes.
Okay. So Nathan, you talked about Republicans passing anti-choice legislation.
Yeah.
The American political system is so polarized, which you're very aware of working in the state legislature. Is there any value in trying to work across the aisle for this? And if so, how might you do it?
So I'm going to say this right now. The majority of the Republicans that are elected in the Arizona legislature are fascists. I'm calling them fascists on purpose. That is the movement that they are working with. I will work with anybody that believes that abortion care is healthcare and healthcare is a human right. I'll work with anybody who believes that public education is a right and that we have to fully fund it. I will not go out of my way to try to moderate people who were elected because they are this insane and this far right. And that's what they are. These Republicans are not people that we can go to and change their hearts and minds. They were elected because they are extremists.
Thank you. So this kind of leads me to the next question, which is the role of parents, and we're just going to say in education.
Is there more, or just generally the role of parents?
No, just how you feel about it. I'm just kind of linking your family situation. Yeah.
So I was a teacher. I reached out to parents all the time. I had parents reach out to me. I always encouraged that. That was a great give and take. There are some activists who think that, on the right, who think that, their teachers are teaching crazy things. Everyone who is a parent or is an educator knows that all parents have to do is email their teacher and they will get questions back, or they'll get answers back. Yeah, I think that there, is a role for parents in education. I think that most of them are very active. I also want to say that we as the Democratic Party need to really work to help parents. I think that starts with public education, but it goes beyond just the K-12 and fully funding it. It includes universal pre-K. And I think it needs to be based on the DC model. We do not need vouchers for pre-K. We need fully funded public preschool programs that integrate well with our kindergarten programs. And that will help families immensely with 2 years of essentially childcare and learning for their students, for their children.
Perfect. And that is time.
Okay.
Thank you, Nathan. Laura, can we go back to Kat again, please? Kat Stratford. Again, Democratic candidate for Arizona House of Representatives. Kat 4AZ is her contact information. Welcome, Kat.
Hi, thank you so much. And please, if you have questions, feel free to drop them into the chat while I'm talking. My name is Kat Stratford, and I definitely want to talk to you about today. Today, I was actually at the Capitol visiting my friend Jen Longden. She is one of our state representatives. She was paralyzed over 18 years ago by random gun violence, and today on the House floor had to hold a moment of silence because we experienced the most deadly mass school shooting since Sandy Hook. I cannot imagine her grief and frustration in having to deliver those remarks on the House floor today. I cannot imagine her grief and our collective frustration as we deal with this horrifying pattern of violence. I've spoken to you guys before, so I know you know a little bit about me. I'm a survivor of sexual and domestic violence. I'm a member of the deaf and hard of hearing community, and I am the single parent of 2 incredible kids, one of whom happens to be trans, and both of whom are about to wake up with fewer rights than their grandparents had. That is the world that they are coming into. And right now, I'm just grateful that they are waking up, but I'm horrified about the reality that they're waking up to. Earlier today, Texas Senator Tom Tillis said the quiet part out loud when it comes to Texas's pro-life stance. We need to avoid reflexive action, unless, of course, it comes to people with uteruses. Then reflexive action is absolutely necessary. But when it comes to guns, we can't be doing that. It's really frustrating for me as a parent. I'm sure it's really frustrating for all of you as Democrats who have been fighting for so long to pass any kind of meaningful legislation on this. And it would be easy for any of us to give up in the face of all of this. But we're not going to do that. Things don't have to stay like this, and we can do better for our kids. So I'm going to keep fighting for common sense legislation. I'm going to keep fighting for better access to safety net and mental health resources for families. And I'm going to keep working because that's what moms do. So for my kids, for yours, for all, let's keep going. Thank you.
Thanks, Kat.
Nathan, how much time do we have?
We have about 2.5 minutes.
Okay. Hi, Kat. You talked about gun violence, which was tremendously in the news today, as we know. How will you impress upon the Arizona governor, legislature, and voters that gun violence must be addressed?
I think the facts speak for themselves. I plan on working closely with advocates who are really informed on this issue. We're really lucky here in Tucson. We have quite a few. Moms Demand Action has a huge presence here. And earlier today, I was obviously shadowing Jennifer Longden, who has quite a lot to say about this issue as well. So I plan on working with lobbyists and experts on this, and working across the aisle. I think it's important to impress upon our Republican counterparts the importance of saving lives moving forward. And that does require reaching across the aisle and talking to Republicans, because you do need a certain amount of Republican votes in order to get any kind of meaningful legislation passed. And so it's going to take a lot of work, but I'm willing to do that work and keep fighting.
Could you also comment on the role of parents in education?
Oh, happily. Oh my gosh, yes. So I think that parents, as I said earlier, I am a member of the deaf and hard of hearing community. I'm actually communicating with you all through my hearing aids and through closed caption service. It's very difficult as a CODA family to access special education for my youngest child who has a 504 plan. It also took us going to 5 different schools in one school year in order to get that 504 plan. And that's not an uncommon thing that I've heard while talking to other parents and talking to school administrators. So the role of parents is very important. We need to make sure that our kids are that there's some transparency within our schools, and that kids are getting access to the best possible education. That's something that all families deserve. So in the role of parents in education, sorry, the question is a little non-specific, but I plan on being a strong advocate for public education, because I believe that all families deserve access to quality education. And that means that we need to be funding public education a lot more.
Our next speaker is Chris Mathis. Chris is a candidate also for the House of Representatives. He is also the incumbent. His contact information is mathisforarizona.com. Chris?
Thank you very much, Susan. I like having the 5-minute format because we can be a little bit more conversational. I think most of you have had a chance to hear me. If not, meet me. I look forward to meeting everyone. So as Susan said, I was appointed to Randy Freese's seat in December. I've been serving in the legislature since then, and my background is as a lawyer and a legislative staffer and a policy analyst. I've been practicing elder law in Tucson for I guess around 20 years now, and like Kat, I was up at the Capitol today and drove back down here to Tucson. I'm in Tucson tonight, and it was a tough day in the Capitol. And when I left the floor, one of my colleagues was in tears about what had happened today, and I think all of it just drives home the challenges that we have in our state. With respect to gun reform and gun safety laws, I serve on 2 committees. I'm on the NRU, the National Natural Resources, Energy and Water Committee. I'm also on the Judiciary Committee. And in Judiciary this year, we had numerous bills come through, and they all passed on party line votes. We voted against them. The Republicans voted for them on guns. And these aren't gun safety measures. These are measures to make it easier for anyone to have a loaded gun anywhere. And the question was asked of Kat, and I think that we need to keep fighting for common sense gun reform. And again, it's one of these issues where if you look at the polling, these things poll at like 90%. So universal background checks, closing the gun show loophole, assault weapons ban, getting rid of high capacity magazines. And I think we in the legislature need to stick together on the Democratic side. This is going to be a tough one to change Republican minds, because they are frankly beholden to the gun lobby on their side. That's just the reality of it. And they are not going to vote a different way on these things anytime soon. But I think really what, in addition to our caucus, is we need a Democratic governor, because we need a governor who isn't going to sign these bills that get passed out of the House. So I just want to talk about that a little bit first, because it is, on our hearts right now. In addition to that issue, the reason that I'm running and the reason that I ran in October and November for the legislature is to invest in public schools, to protect abortion and reproductive rights, to fight climate change, and as I said earlier, to fight for common sense gun safety laws. I think that I was having a conversation with someone else in Phoenix today who's been up there for about 30 years. And I, as I said, had some legal and some legislative and some policy experience. But even so, there has been a steep learning curve over the past 6 months. And the reality is I was fortunate enough to be able to fill Randy Fries's seat. Our great other House Representative, Pam Powers-Hanley, is going to be stepping down, and Victoria Steele is also going to be stepping down. So the discussion I was having earlier today was about the importance of some experience at the Capitol. And so even though I haven't been there for that long, I am the incumbent in the race, and it's a little bit self-serving to say, but we are campaigning. I think that's really valuable. And I think at least one of our members of our House delegation ought to have that experience. It is also true that a significant percentage of the folks in the House, current Democratic members, aren't going to be there next year. People are taking various other piece. I'm running for Senate. So I would stress my experience in the role, and am happy to answer any questions you might have if there's any time left.
There is not.
Fair enough. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Chris. Our next speaker is Nancy Gutierrez, and she is also a candidate for Arizona House of Representatives. Nancy4az.com. Nancy.
Hi, thank you so much, Susan. Thanks, everybody, for having us again and giving us this time. I have been teaching in Arizona. I started in 1994. And then in 2007, my husband, Andy, of 26 years, and our two daughters moved here to Tucson. And we've been raising them here. They are a product of public school, as am I. And since 2013, I have been teaching yoga at Tucson High. And while there, I've been a department chair. I've marched with Red for Ed. I am a member of the Teachers Union and was just a delegate at our state meeting. I've been lucky enough to speak at the Bands Off Our Bodies rally and helped the students plan their walkout of the high schools recently. I will stand up for abortion rights and public schools. I don't want my daughters and my students and anyone who is pregnant to have fewer rights than I've had my whole life. We do have a water crisis right now, and we need to address it. And honestly, it's a little hard to speak tonight because as a teacher, this problem that we have with school shootings is really upsetting. It is to the point, to be honest with you, that whenever the announcements come on in my classroom, I flinch and I think, is this going to be the time that I have to protect my 30 students from an active shooter? Thank God that hasn't happened yet, but we had a drive-by shooting last semester across the street from Tucson High, and thankfully none of our students were hurt. But as I was talking to them after and just asking how they were doing, my student said, yes, I heard the gunfire, miss, but I just figured that's Tucson. And so all of these break my heart. Our students just should not just think, well, that's just Tucson. I hear gunfire all the time. There is no better advocate for public schools than a public school teacher. And I have spent a huge part of my life being that advocate and being that teacher. I've been working with Moms Demand Action since I started campaigning, and I'm part of their Demand a Seat program, and I'm a gun sense candidate. I will fight for sensible gun laws. I will not allow guns to be on any of our school campuses, including our public universities. It's not okay. Thank you for listening. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Nathan, how much time?
About 2 minutes.
Okay. So my sympathy and empathy goes out to you in this
Thank
time
you.
that you're suffering.
Thank you.
So you've really given us a nice overview of your feelings on gun violence.
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you about another type of assault, and it's the assault we have on our voting rights.
Yes.
And could you address that?
Absolutely. I think the radical right in our state is realizing that the only way that they can win is by stripping our right to vote. And if we don't have the right to vote, we don't have a democracy. I believe that voting should be convenient, and I wholeheartedly support our Pima County Recorder, Gabrielle Caceres Kelly, with her implementing more voting centers. I believe in same-day voting registration and also giving rights back to nonviolent inmates when they have served their terms. I think there has been no fraud. We've proven that. So our mail-in voting is absolutely legal and should continue to take place. Our permanent early voting system should continue to take place.
Thank you.
45 seconds. I'm taping myself.
Okay. Nathan, how far are we? We have another time for
We
another
have another like 30 seconds. So Nancy, I
Okay.
think you just want to add
So-
anything else?
Go ahead. Your top priorities if elected.
Top priority is fully funding education, keeping guns out of schools, closing loopholes in gun legislation, addressing our water crisis, and having safe abortion care available to all of our citizens.
We are going to move to our Senate candidates, and we're going to start with Priya Sundareshan, Democratic candidate for Arizona State Senate. That's priyaforarizona.com. Priya?
Thanks, Susan. I'm Priya Sundareshan. Thanks for having me. I'm running for the state senate for LD18. For those who don't know me, my little introduction to myself: I was born and raised in Tucson. I attended public schools here in Tucson. I want to make sure that every student in Tucson and across Arizona has as well funded and as well resourced of an education as I received when I was growing up. As we all know, that is not the case, as others have mentioned as well. The reason I'm running is really to bring my experience and expertise as an advocate to now a candidate and then hopefully in the legislature. So I really like to explain more about what I mean when I say that my experience as an advocate. I have made environmental issues my career. So that's one major area of advocacy that I will work on and focus on at the legislature. I currently teach natural resources law. I teach a natural resources clinic where I supervise law students on various natural resources issues that occur here in Tucson and Arizona broadly across the West. And that spans from water issues, which are, you can't escape hearing about them, and especially are especially prominent when you're talking about environmental law issues. So water law is an area that I'm well versed in and have been supervising students and will continue to be supervising students on my classes. And more broadly, my experience before I returned to the university to teach environmental law, I have been an advocate with a national nonprofit environmental defense fund where I learned a lot of advocacy skills, the ability to advocate with various lawmakers on issues of bipartisan consensus to make sure that we were able to protect natural resources in areas where industry understands the value of preserving the resources that they depend on for their livelihood. The same thing that many people across the country rely on, these resources being there for their food, for their jobs, et cetera. And I was brought into this space from learning about climate change. I have a math and science background. I went to school, to college to study engineering at MIT. That's where I learned that climate change was happening. And that's also where I learned that climate change was not being acted upon within the US. Internationally, it was a recognized issue. Here domestically, we couldn't get the political will together. That's where I learned the importance of politics and law in making sure that that the science was followed, or in our case, lacked the follow through. And so I'm committed to bringing my experience and expertise to bringing science-based decision-making to our legislature. We don't see that in the environmental issues. We also haven't seen a lot of that in dealing with COVID. And so I want to make sure that we are leaning on the science, leaning on the facts and the evidence in order to make sound policy on especially environmental issues, addressing climate change, making Arizona a leader in renewable energy, especially solar, because we have so much of it. We really should be. And of course, water, circling back. So that's one area of advocacy that I have a lot of experience on. The second area of advocacy is voting rights. Actually, in today's Daily Star, you may have seen an opinion piece I wrote about voting issues. Specifically, I was talking about how our current legislature, Republican-led, has been passing bills to suppress the right to vote, to make it harder to vote, even passing some nonsense that doesn't even need to be passed because it already doesn't exist. For example, they passed a law that outlaws same-day voter registration, even though we already require people to register 29 days before the election. That's not what our legislature should be doing. And I have the experience from having monitored and advocated against these bills in the previous years as chair of the Arizona Democratic Party's Election Integrity Committee. And I've been following those, as well as experience being on voter protection staff for the state party, having run a voter information hotline, some deep experience on voting issues. I also mentioned in my opinion piece that Pima County has been moving in the right direction, thanks to our county recorder, thanks to our supervisors who, together put forward a proposal to change Pima County from our polling places to vote centers, which will allow more freedom for our voters to vote wherever they can. And not worry that their vote will be thrown out simply for being in the wrong location. And
Priya,
I think, sorry,
it's time.
Oh my gosh, look at me being long-winded. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much, Priya. Morgan Abraham is also a candidate for the Senate, and his contact information is morganabraham.com. Morgan, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. And I want to thank everyone for sticking around towards the end. I'm really hoping I can make it to the candidate forum soon and talk to you all. I did just get military orders, so I'm 50-50 on that right now, but if I can't make it, feel free to reach out and I'm happy to answer any questions. But my name is Morgan Abraham. I want to tell you a little bit about who I am, why I'm running, the values I have, and then I want to talk about the work I do at the legislature right now. I'm actually, unfortunately, in Phoenix, not in my home of Tucson. And so what we're doing right now at the legislature and what I specifically do. So who I am first, I'm Morgan Abraham, and I've worked my entire life to make Southern Arizona a better place to live, work, and raise a family. As a small business owner, I've created thousands of affordable units for our community. As a military intelligence officer in the Army, I fought to defend my country. And as a current member of the Arizona House of Representatives, I've introduced bills to get rid of tax loopholes, same bills that Senator Farley ran, bills to fund education, bills to create a public pre-K system, bills to retire coal and natural gas and increase the supply of affordable housing in our community. As an education advocate, I fought hard against draconian cuts to our public schools and colleges and universities between Governor Brewer's terrible tuition increases and Governor Ducey's education bills. I'm running now for the state Senate to fully fund our public schools and fight in the legislature against the Republican extremist bills that are threatening our democracy and our right to vote. I have the experience, the energy, and the enthusiasm to get the job done. And with your support, I want to continue to fight for Southern Arizona values. So now I want to tell you a little bit about my values and where I got these values. And that's from my parents. The reason I'm running, my why, is I want to live in an Arizona that instills and upholds the values my parents gave me. And that's to restore the promise of Arizona, a promise that was based on a quality public education and the economic opportunity that follows after when you invest in public education. Like many Arizonans, my parents came to this state in search of a better life. My dad immigrated to this country with no money and no college degree, and he chose Arizona for the opportunity, the quality education, and then the opportunity that followed. My mom is a lifelong school teacher. And she also chose to come to Arizona because at the time we valued our teachers, we valued education, and we paid them well. And so both my parents chose Arizona for the schools, the education, and the economic opportunity. And today I fear that promise is gone. It's true, we got hit harder from the Great Recession than many other states, but the last 12 years, the Republicans have been balancing budgets on the backs of our schools. And even as the state recovers from the Great Recession, right now we have $5 billion surplus. We never increased education funding to where we were pre-recession. One interesting stat is our per pupil inflation adjusted education spending is lower than when it was when I was in high school. That was a long time ago, and it's a fascinating statistic, and that is unacceptable. And even worse, not only our education problem, but we continue to have major problems that impacts everyone's economic opportunity. We have a broken healthcare system, an affordable housing shortage, and a climate crisis. And all these need government investment. We need to prioritize these and invest in these. So I believe it's time we invest in the next generation of Arizonans, just like previous generations of Arizonans invested in me. It's time we commit to the next generation of Arizonans and give them more opportunity than we had. And that's why I'm running. I'm running to restore that promise of Arizona. So that's my why. Now I'm in the House right now. I represent LD 10. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I do before my time runs out, which I think is soon. And so I have in the House right now, I serve with Representative Mathis. And the goal is two fronts. And so I'm an Army guy. And so I use Army terms, and that's offense and defense. And so offense are the bills that we love, the bills that we promote. And the bills I ran a bill to fully fund pre-K. I love talking about pre-K. I think there's massive investments and opportunity there. I ran a bill to retire coal and natural gas with securitization, and that bill is going to have legs next year. We got enough stakeholders at the table, and we're going to move on that bill next year. And I also ran a bill for affordable housing, and through that bill, we're going to have $100 million investment in our budget in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So that's the offense bills. Beyond that, I'm involved in the water authority negotiations. And through negotiation, we were able to create a conservation-based approach to solve water. The Republicans love their augmentation, their desal, but with our approach and negotiation, we were able to insert conservation into that. So these are priorities that we as Democrats want. That's half the job, though. The other half of the job that I do is play defense, and that's kill really bad bills. A couple bills that I've killed this year is an ESG bill, a bill that bans banks from promoting ESG-based scores, whether that's green or social governance scores. Another bill we were able to kill this year was a bill that would hurt teachers' pensions, one of those teachers being my mom. And then another bill we were able to kill this year is a bill that punished companies for requiring a COVID-19 vaccine. And the way we kill these bills is we create coalitions of groups. We communicate our values, and then we pick off one or two Republicans to see eye to eye with us.
Morgan,
yes.
your time is up.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you all so very, very much. I do want to let you know I am so proud and pleased to be in LD18. Every single one of our candidates has written an article, an op-ed for the Arizona Daily Star. So if you have not been looking, go back and look a couple of weeks, couple of months, and you will see their writing. So thank you all very, very much for all you do, for standing up and agreeing to run for an office. I appreciate it so very much. And I know we all do too. And we look forward to seeing you on June 4th. where it will be all questions. We need to go to our initiative petition update. And so we're going to go through these really fast. Betsy Foggia is going to talk about Arizonans for free and fair elections.
Yes, hello. Thanks, everyone. It's Betsy Foggia is my last
Foggia,
name.
I'm so sorry.
So appreciative of all the support for Arizonans for fair elections, and thanks to all the candidates who pointed out how important it is to have access to voting and free and fair elections for all Arizonans. I appreciate the help that everybody is giving us to get our petitions signed. We are 5 weeks to goal. We need all the petitions turned in by June 30th. We're over halfway to our goal, and the volunteer petitions are more important than anything. So I just want to encourage everybody to keep going out and getting them signed and turning them back in. That's most important at this point. We're at the point where we really need to start getting notarized petitions turned in. You can reach out to me for anything. I'm putting my contact info in the chat for you. So if you need petitions, if you want to know where to turn petitions in, if you have notarized petitions or you need a notary, please let me know. And I would just, on this grim day, I will point out to you that Martha McSally took $300,000 from the NRA. So we've got to vote in people that are not beholding to this insanity.
Thank you, Betsy. You are so spot on. Chris Hawkins, voters' right to know or dark money. Chris, there you are.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I can just, I just ditto what Betsy said. Thank you to everyone for your participation in this. Again, we do have about 5 weeks. We're asking people for our petitions to start getting them in by the end of the week, June 24th. That doesn't mean they can't still come in, but try to get them in as soon as you can by that time, or at the very latest by Wednesday of the following week. We lost 2,000 petitions in the second go round because people got them in too late. So we just don't want that to happen. We also had lost our permanent notary at PCDP, but we are womaning that now between Amanda and myself and a couple of other volunteers. So there should be someone there in the afternoons, generally every day except Friday. And if not, I am 2 minutes away from the office. Anyone can call me as a notary. One thing I will say is, again, to ditto Betsy, a wonderful person that she is, volunteer petitions are extremely important. Terry Goddard has told me that Charles Koch is coming after dark money, and they're coming after the paid circulators. You know, we have paid and we have volunteers. And the more volunteers we can get petitions from, the better. So even if you want to just carry one to friends and family or know somebody who will, that would be great. That would be terrific. Anyone can call me, contact me. I'll put my information in here as well. So with that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris. Amanda Villa with Predatory Debt Collection Act.
Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm coming to you from my car because I was out in the field knocking doors. We are doing great. With the other initiatives, we are working to get our buffer. Our goal is to hit 35,000 volunteer signatures, and we are just shy of 22,000 right now. So not an impossible task with 5 weeks left. We're also asking for folks to please bring us your initiatives by the 30th of June. Every signature counts. So remember, whether it's 1 on a sheet or it's 15 on a sheet, we need them all. And I will be at the Pima County Democratic Party headquarters every Thursday starting this week from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you can come there, pick up, drop off, notarize your petitions with me. Happy to help with any of the other initiatives as well. So again, please reach out, come pick up petitions and help us all get to the goals that we need to meet. And the other piece that we are looking for with Healthcare Rising is building up our membership. So we have about 1,100 members statewide right now who make small contributions to help us keep funding this work. So if you are someone who can help us out with a little contribution, you can do that through a link that I'll throw in the chat, or you can find us at healthcarerisingaz.org. Thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And now I don't know if Margot is here or Katie Jenkins going to talk to us about Justice for All.
Yeah, it's me, Katie.
Oh, good.
Hello. So yeah, unfortunately Margot couldn't tonight. She has a jam-packed schedule, but I'm here and I just wanted to say, echoing the others that have spoken before me, 5 weeks, y'all. We have 5 weeks to get these petitions in. And Justice for All is one of those volunteer petitions. We're not hiring any paid canvassers right now, and we're getting really close to our goal. We can almost feel it. We're finally getting the buzz we needed. We just did a mass mailing project, so many of you probably have petitions for us in your houses right now, sitting on that table, and hopefully they can grow some legs and get out there in the field, because we really do need these signatures. We need them all to count. And so I'm dropping my contact information in the chat. I am a notary as well, and so any of the other petition people, if y'all need help with notarizing things, let me know. I'm willing to meet anywhere and everywhere, but also for Justice for All petitions, I'm a notary and I do appointments now. So dropping all that info in the chat, and just, yeah, hoping to get these petitions in, everybody. Thank you so much for helping us along the way. We don't want to do another term though.
Thank you so much to all of you for all of this work. This is how we counteract, one of the ways we counteract this Republican monstrosity that we have.